Hello, everybody, and welcome to another BA Insight session. Today, I've got another free guest to talk to me and us about building your BA brand. Okay, so without further ado, if I can hand over first to Rusha to give yourself an introduction, please, Rusha.
Thank you, John, and thank you, everyone. It is a wonderful forum to be here. I am Rucha Kapre. I am based out of Pune in India. I am a BA by heart. Currently, I head the global team for DEI data at Springer Nature. What does that essentially mean is there are a lot of biases in scholarly publishing. These biases could be related to geographies. For example, when a research is being published, certain geographies get a preference. Or if you look at gender, so if you look at representation of women or other genders in fields like mathematics, statistics, it's quite low. But if you look at research, literature, education, psychology, it's quite high. So there are biases in research. Why does that matter to us? Because the lives that we live in today is the research of yesterday, be it the vaccines we take or the technology that we use. So I am solving this problem of biases by taking a data-driven approach to understand where we stand today and where is it that we need to get to solve this problem. So that's me for now. As I said, I am a BA by heart. It's been 14 years that I'm working. I started as a business analyst, then moved on to heading a team of BAs, then heading a location, and then eventually managing a team of 30 plus BAs at the Pune location. In my free time, I still love to mentor and coach BAs, though I'm not a part of that role, but am an active part of the community. And it more than helping out, I think I learn a lot in that process. And that's exactly why I'm excited to be here, to be with three more BAs and understand their perspective on this field. So thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Excellent. Brilliant, Rusha. Thank you very much. And thanks for getting us started as well with the introductions. And Kathleen, over to you, please.
And thanks, John. I'm happy to be here with this group today. I'm Kathleen Schwaber. I'm based out of the US in Nashville, Tennessee. I am also a BA by heart, not currently practicing. I have the pleasure of leading the project management office and the BA practice at Nashville Electric Service. That is a newer role for me to take on the PMO. But I lead a team right now of 12, and we are on the BA side focused on really growing that practice. So building the BA brand is something I've been doing a lot of the last couple of years. I'm trying to socialize what it is BAs do, why they do good work, the value that they bring to an organization, and growing a team from where there wasn't one before. So it's been an exciting opportunity to put into practice my work as a BA over the last decade or so, and try to grow something new for the organization.
Perfect. Thank you, Kathleen. And you touched on a few points there that we'll definitely be talking about anyway. So thank you for the introduction to that. Excellent. And then last but not least, Ellen, over to you, please.
I am Ellen. I work with Adaptive US. Have been a BA for close to 30 years now. It's probably 27 years plus. And my primary role at Adaptive is to help our fellow business analysts gain market recognition, which is a large part of the branding exercise that we do. And as part of that branding exercise, I also took up certain very interesting initiatives for myself. Say about 12 years back, I decided to hold 1 or 2 world records. So that was my personal goal, which will elevate my brand as a person, as an individual professional. And I'm glad I actually achieved 2 of them. So I hold 2 world records in terms of helping maximum number of BAs in the world today to get international recognition. So there are 1,800 plus professionals in the world who have got significant help from me in terms of getting their IIBA certifications. Secondly, I am the first person in the world to complete all 7 IIBA certifications. So these were kind of a very well thought out path for me to make a mark in the global BA market. And that's how IIBA also reached out to me to be part of their authoring team, to be part of their questions team. So I personally believe, and I fully believe that branding plays an important role for any professional's personal career growth. And also, it also helps us to improve our skills. So I take everything that I do in terms of building up my skills, at the same time building up my brand. That's what I do at Adaptive. I have been teaching business analysis for close to 15 years now, covered about 5,000 business analysts around the globe.
Excellent, Anna. And certainly by those numbers and by the records you're referring to, and by, of course, what Kathleen and Rusha said before, I feel confident that we've got three excellent people to talk about this topic of BA branding with us today. So let's get the ball rolling in with the first question, which is really why it's important to either build your credibility, your reputation, or your brand as a business analyst. And Rusha, can I start with you on that one first?
Thank you. That's a very interesting question. So if you look at brands, and I'm going to separate the B aspect from it for a few seconds. There was a beautiful blog written by Tom Peters, and it was called as The Brand Called You. And it's a recent one. 30 years ago, so it's not a new concept. What it spoke about is what is your vision for yourself. So everything around us is brands. And imagine this was almost 30 years ago. Fast forward to 2024, it is all the more about brands. Everything that you wear, all the services that you take. And what Tom talks about in this blog post is you are the CEO of me.inc, that is MEINC. And you are the head marketer for yourself. You don't have to, and my interpretation of it is when you do something, you don't have to over showcase or oversell, if I may call it, in a very positive connotation. But you don't also have to undersell yourself. You have to put yourself out there for you to know. It's good for yourself as an individual, and it is good for the community as well. So it's a win-win. Now, this is branding being important for anyone. Now, adding the BA context to it, I feel BAs are one of the very few people who are end-to-end involved in building a product or a service or solving a problem, right? From interacting with users, be it through the user research they might do with the research community in terms of discovery or inception. Then they might also talk to stakeholders in terms of the prioritization that needs to be done. Then there's the technical team or the delivery team where they are interacting for getting it executed. And last but not the least, once the product hits the floor, how do you know, was it a success? How do you put the success criteria around it and then feed it back into the inception or the discovery of things? So imagine a person like this has several touch points in the complete journey of a requirement or a product. And not only that, they're also interacting with very important people in the journey. So they hold a lot of power to influence. So hard skills or skills like technical skills, if I may call those, like requirement gathering, elicitation, are important. Yes, they form the solid foundation of things. But having this level of influence only comes when you've built that reputation for yourself, which is why I feel it is very, very important. They have the power to influence or build or unbuild a core product that could serve a need for the customer. So that's my interpretation of why a reputation or a brand as a BA is important.
Excellent. Thank you, Rishi. And Kathleen.
Thanks for the question. And I was kind of thinking about that. It's building my brand as both a professional and as a business analyst. That wasn't something I really gave a lot of thought to outside of the last couple of years. I grew into a BA at a job I was at for 11 years. And so I was able to without really knowing it, build my brand over time, had developed a reputation, built that technical skill set in a project that was in flight. And so that was a really unique opportunity to, I think it was kind of a safe space to do that. My family and I moved across the country 2 years ago, and with that meant a job change. And so I was building, or I guess reinforcing the brand that I had for myself with a new group of people, trying to set expectations about the type of work that I do, the type of person that I am, and what I can bring to an organization. The other unique thing that presented was that there was not a business analysis role where I started. There had been people doing BA work, but not formally, not with the title, not with the structure of a practice or procedures. And so I had to build that as I came into this new organization. And I actually started that task with building a brand. I didn't realize at the time I was hired that that was the job, like build a BA practice, build procedures and templates, and tell the organization what BAs do and show the value of it. And so I was grateful to have a manager who saw that vision and just needed some help executing it. And so I started from the ground up. Why do I love business analysis? Why should other people love it? What can I bring to the table? Because there was not, I didn't fit in well. There wasn't space carved out for BA work. So I had to insert myself in different positions and leave, little hooks for them to pick up and kind of realize, oh, that's what you do. And I started actually with kind of a mission and a vision, and mapped out what are the things I want to deliver as a BA. And that helped me reinforce for myself the framework I was trying to build, that reputation, that brand that I wanted to present to the organization. And I think that was important in my company to sell the value of business analysis. It wasn't that anybody was resistant to it, but BA is kind of ambiguous. And even in the professional world, there are lots of uses of the title business analyst that all have a very different execution at the other side. And so that was really important for me to have a brand that I could consciously refer back to and coach and help others see where they can and should use BA in their work stream.
Excellent, Kathleen. And that's a good example there, I think, of what probably many of us have probably experienced, in that we're not just using our time on a project initially to talk about all about us. It's about what is business analysis, why is it important, what's the benefit it brings, and through not just the education and sharing the information, but really demonstrating those principles and actually demonstrating all the good things you talk about. That also builds up your personal brand as well. So I like the way you've brought those two together. And Elaine, to end with you on that particular question.
Okay, so my experience with business analysis has been very strange. I started in a consulting role, and I was helping a client to improve their profitability. And that's when I kind of got exposed to software. Before that, I was very much hung up on hardware side of business. I came from electronics background. But that particular project, in about 6 months' time, we could improve the client revenue by about 40%, because they had a lot of manual processes and it was very inefficient. And this opened my eyes to the world of business analysis, saying this is going to be a very interesting space to be in. Then I also observed in about 10 years being a BA that we probably number equally, or probably we are more in number compared to project managers. But the world understands project management so well. Nobody questions what project managers do, how to perform project management. But when it comes to business analysis, there's so much confusion in the market. We are partly responsible because we did not define our role very well. And often what I say is there are probably at least 10 to 12 major category of business analysts who perform very different type of tasks, but we just bucket them under one particular role, which is actually in a sense good that we have so much opportunity to grow. So today I am a requirements analyst. Tomorrow I could be a data analyst. Day after tomorrow I could be a product analyst. I could move into a strategy analysis role if I like that role. So it's actually a huge space which needs to get a much better recognition in the professional world, which is what I think we have done to some extent. I'm not saying we haven't done anything about it, but the amount of work to be done in the BA space is amazingly high. That's what I would say. And I'm glad many organizations have started looking at creating BA practices, BA COE, like Kathleen said, but it's still in infancy. I mean, I'm talking of PM COE 30 years back in IBM. And even today, I would not find many BA COEs when PM COE has been there for so long. So it's, I think, our duty as a community to communicate our value to top management, explain how business analysis can energize the business, can bring in additional revenue, can bring down costs significantly. So those kind of communication has to be made a lot more often. And maybe bodies like IIBA, BCS, IREB can play a very important role because there are a lot of members that they have who listen to them.
That's right. I mean, and many of those points you made there echoed with actually some points I made before the session, because I was thinking, you know, what does it mean to me? And I think, you know, building your BA brand, building the brand around business analysis opens up the doors to opportunity to work on a number of aspects that fall under business analysis. I know you mentioned data analysis, and requirements and process, and many other things. But I think by improving the way that we can communicate the benefits of business analysis, the breadth of the role itself, it can give us and our teams opportunity to not just do that part that's maybe midway through the life cycle of the change, but actually to get involved right from the very start when we're coming up with ideas on what we should be doing, how we should be doing it, and the solutions as well. So I think for me, that's very much an important reason why having a strong brand, good credibility in analysis, it gives you that opportunity to talk to stakeholders and senior members of transformation in order to perhaps impress upon them the opportunities for BAs to get involved in as much as possible, actually, across the life cycle of not just the projects, but actually in the preceding stages and actually those stages after project delivery as well, I would say.
True.
So, and I think you've certainly articulated, many things, I think, that clarify why it's important to build yours and the brand of business analysis. I wonder, I mean, we sort of touched on a few of them, but I mean, are there any other benefits that you might want to call out on building that brand and that reputation? Maybe not least to, and you can take it from the perspective of either to yourself or to the organisation, whichever you choose on that one. And I wonder, Kathleen, perhaps I can start with you first on that question.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think in my experience, probably the biggest benefit of taking the time to put a brand on paper was that I got to focus on what was, I think, really important, at least for my organization at that time, and what I was really good at. And it helps me kind of contain the noise. I am a fixer, and if I see a problem, I'm typically going to go down the road of solutioning very quickly. And that's not always what's needed. Sometimes it's just listening, sometimes it's documenting. And so I had to think really carefully about what I wanted our BA practice to look like, what kind of brand reputation we wanted to have, especially because I was selling it. I was trying to teach people what I could offer the business. And so it forced me to narrow my scope. You know, I figured I would start small, focus on the things that we can be really good at, the big bang for the buck, I guess you could say. And I was actually inspired by a book I read. It's called Raving Fans. It's a parable by Ken Blanchard. And it's a parable that includes 3 keys to delivering outstanding customer service so that you have raving fans that are singing your praises and want more of what you're offering. And one of the keys was knowing what you're good at. And then story talks about a grocery store owner who has this great little niche market, and she sells lots of things, and she communicates health value of different things. She marks them with a special icon when they're heart healthy, and has the store laid out in an extra functional way so that her shoppers can have efficiency in their process. She does not sell seafood because she realized she can't keep it fresh. It doesn't, it's not very popular. And so instead of offering something that was mediocre to the few people who wanted it, she wasn't going to offer it at all. She's going to focus on what she was good at. And that really stuck with me when I was trying to define this brand of I need to focus on what we're going to be really good at and what is going to be most important. There are thousands of things I could do, but if I can't do them well, then I don't want to define myself by just being okay, right? If I'm trying to sell the value of BA, I need to focus on selling what really is going to be impressive and drive value. So that's where I think knowing what your brand is important. It helps you remain focused on what your mission is or what service you're trying to deliver to your customer.
Excellent. Really good start there, Kathleen, to that question. I like the idea of knowing what you're good at first. I think that's definitely the key area to start building your reputation and your brand around. And if people can start to realize the value in that, then it allows you hopefully the scope to grow that value and that expertise and the breadth as well. Excellent. Ellen, I'll go over to you next on that question. And you're on mute, by the way.
To me, it looks like brand has two key components. One is your expertise. So without a decent level of expertise in something, it's very hard to build a brand. That's what I would always believe. That expertise could come because you are very focused on doing something in a great manner. It could come from having a decent amount of experience. So as you work, you obviously gather experience. So that also helps with you. Reading, researching, all these will build up your expertise. But the second component is exposure, which is to be exposed to the community, the events on LinkedIn, blogging, podcasting. So many things are available today, which can give you a lot of exposure. Probably 15 years back or 20 years back, we could have never thought. I would have never thought in my life that I would know more than 500 BAs. Because that itself is a large number. Like to get a company where 500 BAs work means it's a company of 50,000 people, possibly. And such companies are very rare and not so many. But today, because of so much improvement in internet, in social media, it is possible for you to build a fairly good brand for yourself as long as you stay focused, you add value through your content, postings and all. So we as a company, we have been extremely focused. I mean, sometimes people question us, can you survive by being so narrowly focused? But by God's grace, things have been good. In last 7 years, we have just focused on a very tiny piece of BA work, which is to help BAs become better at their work and be certified. That's all we do. And even that also has helped us to grow reasonably well. We got around 30,000 followers around the world, which is not bad. I mean, it's a 7-year-old company, and so many people talk to us, they write to us, and not everyone becomes a customer. That's understood, understandable position from them. But at least 5,000 has become customers, which I would say is an amazing thing. And I think I appreciate Kathleen's reinforcement of focus. Because if you let go and you start trying to do everything, you don't become like a master of anything. But as a BA, sometimes I feel we should not become so narrowly focused that we can't think sideways. As a BA, generally we are expected to be having a little bit of a broader vision especially if you want to go up the corporate ladder, you want to get into strategy and those kind of areas. There, you need to keep your eyes and ears open.
That's it. And I think you've touched on quite a few good points there, of course, and I think they nicely dovetail with what Kathleen mentioned in terms of, you know, you've got your focus areas, but then actually having that awareness of where you sit in the bigger picture actually can help others understand the benefits of the BA role and your role and what you bring in the context of those things that are going to matter to them, be it in transformation, within the context of their process or their day-to-day, or indeed just in the context of a single issue that they might have. Understanding where you can bring the value to them in that context, I think, is really, really quite valuable. And perhaps as you've touched on some of those points as well, you've sort of introduced us a little bit to like how we can start to build our brand, and it's by working on maybe sometimes the smaller things that can impress on individuals, how we can influence and how we can add value on some of the small things, but also there'll be others where we're actually giving them a good impression on the larger top-down activities that we do as well. And I'm sure we'll come to that in a bit, that's for sure. But I'm conscious I wanted to give Ruchir a chance to answer that question as well around the benefits of building your brand.
I would like to answer that with a personal experience. When you approached me, John, I think that was around end of last year. I started working on my own brand, and it was almost like 14 years into being a BA. So I'd never thought of building a brand before that. And the reason I did it is because, one, of course, one of my mentors kept talking to me about it. But the other reason was I tend to do like a year-end retrospective for myself every year. And when I did that, I realized I've been doing a lot of things already organically, but maybe it was not that structured. So I was like, okay, I'm doing it anyways. I might as well do it in a structured way, which might be beneficial for me and for the organization. And a few benefits that I saw in that retrospective, which included all the things that I did last year, were, and this is not specific to the BA community, things like being called in sessions where some critical thinking is needed. So I wouldn't say like being a finisher, but indirectly being a problem solver, where just being called to leadership meetings or sessions where you just go and ask some really very powerful questions. I'm not the person who's going to give you solutions. You understand your context and you understand your problem much, much, much better than I do. As a BA, I would just go into the situations, ask some questions which made people to reflect on, and then they had the solutions for it. So that's one way. The other way is like being invited again to leadership level forums, even C-level forums sometimes, where you need to facilitate some conversations because you really need someone neutral there. If everyone is as powerful as C-level and all of them have great ideas, you need to channelize those in the most effective way. The last but not the least benefit that I can think of is the current role that I'm doing is new, not just to my organization, it's new to the publishing industry. And I think skills are transferable. Similarly to what Kathleen mentioned, I was able to use these skills of taking something from ambiguous situations to something which might be a bit structured and clear. So this space, people were like, probably you shouldn't take it up because you don't know how it will turn out to be. But I think BAs are always up for a challenge. I was like, what's the worst that could happen? Let me try it out. Now, I've been in this role for 2 years now, and I'm loving it because there's a new challenge every day. And I think that's what all BAs love. So apart from all the benefits, I would say it also opens a window of a lot of opportunities, like building this brand and having those skills as a BA. Because maybe you're not going to be a business analyst forever, but that approach, what is imbibed in our DNA, helps you in every walk of life, not just professionally, also personally, where you tend to think about these questions like why you're doing what you're doing, and so on and so forth. That would be what I see as a benefit.
Excellent. And from my perspective, it's quite possibly an obvious one in that a big benefit for me is I feel like, being able to build a reputation of someone associated with business analysis, hopefully someone who's talking about the right things as well, has enabled me to speak to the likes of you three on these sessions, and to be able to have you accept my invite and to come and have a chat, and therefore, the extended benefit of growing my network, meeting new people, hearing some really interesting perspectives, learning from those perspectives, and then obviously taking that learning into maybe the way I do things and improving things. So there's a lot which actually then goes back round in a loop again. You find that by doing them things can help your brand and your credibility, and it just is a self-fulfilling prophecy, really, which is my take on it. But it sort of connects many of the things you've said as well. I think on top of why it's important, the benefits, I think we've spoken in small patches, I think, as to how you can build your brand. I think Ellen talking about based on your experience as an example and your expertise. Kathleen mentioning around knowing what you're good at as one example as well. But I wonder, are there any further points that you might make, starting with yourself, Ellen, on how individuals can build their own reputation and extend their personal brand further?
John, would you like me to go ahead?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I think for me, I have seen personally so many students who wanted to get into a better role, join a new country. So many students from Nigeria have moved to Canada, from India to US, India to Australia. So all kinds of movements happens in the world, and having their personal brand created, either through LinkedIn activities, that's one channel I look at, or through certification route as well, like you get yourself certified, that automatically boosts your brand to some extent. And these students have done very well. And just to give us an idea about Adaptive itself, the company which I co-founded about 8 years back, we were absolutely newcomer in the market. There were many established players in the market, and we actually leveraged LinkedIn blogging platform to make a name for ourselves. So the first 5,000 or 6,000 followers I created for the company, this was through a brand building exercise, which was blogging. So I wrote a ton of blogs on various topics, which I, of course, practiced at my workplace. And these blogs became popular. Then so many students came to us because of those blogs and podcasts that I created. So it's always helpful for an organization, a practice, an individual at 3 levels to build their brand. Branding is not limited only to organization, whereas most people look at organizational branding in a much more serious way. So we look at IBM, Microsoft, everybody is trying to build their brand. But within the organization, the practices and individuals also should seriously look at how they build their brand. Because if you are branded, you are trusted more. So if you are not branded, the trust on you is always less. So the moment you are able to build some decent brand for yourself, and trust drives business. That's what I think I should remember always. I have heard this statement. One gentleman told me very clearly, Ellen, the first question I ask you, can I trust you? If I can't trust you, I don't do business with you. It's plain and simple. So trust comes much before people talk to you, do business with you. So, and brand always believes, it always builds up trust.
Yeah. And I imagine, or I know as well, that trust is built around, not just you saying you're a business analyst or putting posts on LinkedIn, but it's actually through like your performance and your reliability and your consistency and doing all those things that actually is expected of you as a business analyst, but then going above and beyond the basis for that.
True.
Yeah, some excellent points there. And Rusha, can I ask you that question as to how to build your brand and reputation, please?
I would say start by having a vision, if it sounds like a very big thing, like having a vision for yourself, maybe a simple statement or a sketch in terms of where do you want to get maybe in a year or 2 years. If 3 or more years is overwhelming, look at a short interval. That's definitely the basis of starting. But I strongly agree. If you don't have your foundation clear and set, which in our terms are the skills, it would be very hard to build a brand. Even if you do, it's not going to survive. So what I usually do for myself, and I try to lead by example here, and also for my teams, is work on something called as a PDP, or a personal development plan, or you can call it a professional development plan, where we focus on 3 areas. One is the area that is needed for your job or role, the skills and behaviors that you need for your job. These could be like requirement gathering, elicitation, brainstorming, and different techniques. The other here is the soft skills or behavioral skills that you would need. And these are things like influencing, negotiation, or being able to manage like stakeholders, or even communication sometimes, being articulative. And the third is looking at industry skills, which is, of course, I know as BAs, you don't have to be an SME in something, but say AI or ML, which is the thing that's going around now, at least have a working understanding of what it means. So 3 things is what I would focus on to build a brand. One is things needed to do your role. Second is soft skills or behavioral skills. And the third is industry skills. And I would give all of them equal importance. The foundation for me is the first one. It should be very, very solid. But it's the other 2 things that will take you ahead of it. That's one. The other is when I do goals for myself or for my team, I ensure a lot of us do goals which are related to delivery and project, and there's nothing wrong. That's important. That's the bread and butter. But we also need to own our learning. So if I set 5 goals in a year, one goal would be for myself. What is it that I want my learning journey to be? And then it's things like PDPs that would come into my own learning journey, or things like getting myself upskilled or cross-skilled, be through certifications or whatever mediums that are available. And that's the first goal, personal learning. Second is another 3 goals might be related to delivery. It's important, there's no denying. And the last and the final goal I usually prefer is, what are you doing for the community you're a part of? Delivery, everyone is going to do at the end of the day. That's expected. That's business as usual. What makes you stand out is, what are you giving back? And it's quite important. And this giving back can be through hundreds of forums. Like if I have to give you an example of the community we've built at Springer Nature, we do like monthly meetups as BAs. It's a group of 50 BAs. We have an informal Slack channel where people interact every day. Then there's a channel specific to facilitations where people learn skills. There's a lot of blogging where people share each other's, like share ideas. There are a lot of informal like coffee meets, lunches, and the overall culture of, sharing, having your presence on LinkedIn. So these are the things I think help you build that brand. Again, I cannot pinpoint on a certain things. It's something that happens incrementally and with multiple things, not just one. So this is my perspective on it.
So thank you for sharing it. I think it's many of the points there are quite comparative to, if you look at not just people's personal brands, but brands out in the market, and that there isn't just one thing that you have to do, and it applies to everybody. In that, for everyone's slightly different, their brand and their reputation is slightly different. Therefore, their path to it is a little bit different as well. So certainly, I like the points that you're making there. It all gives us food for thought for the different branches that we can take towards our own personal journey on that one. And Kathleen, to finish with you on that section, that question.
Sure. Yeah, and I think Ellen and Rusha covered quite a bit what I was going to suggest. I think that putting putting your goals or your vision on paper, your mission, what your plan is, it gives you accountability and something to look back at. And both of them touched on delivery in different contexts, but make a plan for what you want to do, tell people what you're going to do, and then do what you say you're going to do. And I think just that, creating that integrity of meeting the expectations that you set, that kind of leads back to not overpromising, doing what you're good at, knowing where to focus. I appreciate Rich's comments on making plans for personal development. And that is something that I've been doing more of, being more intentional about it and actually doing what I say I'm going to do. You want to get your CBAP or even your ECBA, make a plan for it, put time on the calendar, talk to people. Oh, I'm going to do this. And it creates more accountability for yourself. When you're goal setting and communicating those goals, you're more likely to achieve them. With my team, the expectations on me as a manager are to meet with my team periodically to review their goals. I do it more frequently than I'm asked to, because I really believe that their personal development is important. And I don't expect for any of my team that they'll be with me forever. I want to help them get where they're going. So, for me to say as a manager, I want you to develop, I need to actually demonstrate that. But we're going to talk about this. I'm going to remind them, hey, you have this plan. Like, what are we doing to get there? How can I support you with that? Do you need time? Do we need, to work this into the budget? Are you doing work that fills your tanks, that you find valuable? And I think Rucha also made a great point of doing a retrospective on yourself. Looking back, right? What did I accomplish last year or last week? How does this align to the strategy I've set for myself? Where do I want to go beyond, this point in time that I've already mapped out? And I think it comes back to points they've both made of, delivering what you say you're going to deliver, just being consistent, being a person or a professional of integrity. That trust has to be there. I can look at lots of brands and have an association of they do or they don't do what they claim to be in service of.
Yeah.
And I always want people to look at me and know what Kathleen's brand is. What does she do? What does she do well? And does she do it when she says she will? And so that, I think, that's key, is just that consistency and that transparency.
I would totally agree. And it's nice as well that what you've introduced, the three of you, in different ways, is that your brand isn't it isn't a selfish thing that you do entirely in isolation. We don't sit in a room, build our brand up all on our own. Actually, the way we do it actually is quite often working with the community, working with your teams, helping others, putting others to the fore, giving them the opportunity where they've done the good work in your team to actually take the limelight. And it's for doing that actually people start to, trust your motives, realize that you're not just there, hopefully to for yourself, and it's for the community. It's for growing your team, helping them improve. And of course, by doing those things, we typically improve ourselves anyway. So, so there's a win-win for everybody, I think, in those cases. So very much for me, I think the way I would answer that question is to think about how we can help the teams, help the community, go out to them and ask what they need of us, or maybe, and definitely we'll learn from them as well as a result, I'm sure. Perfect. And I guess a more personal question now to each of you, in terms of what you might like to do next to continue to grow your own individual brands. And I wonder, Kathleen, you ended that last question, so I'll go to you first.
That's an interesting question. I feel like my role has really only been in Flex the last couple of years. Most recently, I'm in a leadership role, and so I've been able to take my BA soft skills to a more strategic position and help shape direction for the organization. and build and grow teams that I didn't have any aspirations to be a leader of teams, but here I am and I'm really enjoying it. And, I'm now building that brand as a leader. And so that's what I've been focusing a lot of my, both my work time and my personal time into is what kind of leader do I want to be? What is the brand I want to create for myself in that space? And what do I need to do to get there? And so I'm, my content focus on LinkedIn and, other sources of content, I'm trying to look for role models, right? What leadership styles do I like? What people would I want to work for and why? And figure out where are the things that I can and should develop further. You do that in BA work too. It's something I did for several years was I'm going to follow the BAs that are, my dream BA. And I get to meet the BA celebrities at the conferences and have real conversations with them. And so that's, my journey right now is on leadership and building that brand, building a more strategic eye. So I'm actually chasing a business architecture certificate with the Business Architecture Guild because I want a more strategic focus. It's different at the leadership level, right? I'm less tactical and more long-term and big organization planning. And I think business analysis is a really great jump into that. And I'll be the first to say BAs are strategic. I know a lot of people have an opinion that they're not, but I would disagree with that.
Yeah, me too.
So that's kind of where I am these days.
Excellent. Brilliant start to that question. Ellen, over to you on that question, please, about
Okay.
what you
So
want
I
personally
think
to do.
there's some interesting thoughts from my side to Kathleen. Two things. One, I did work on a very simple assessment tool, which is available for free. I will give a link to John, and I think we all can share that link with our team. It's a very simple 10-minute assessment framework, which you can do it multiple times for your staff members, BA colleagues. It has an BABOK component as well. So in case you are willing to look at a BABOK framework, it has an assessment for that as well. So that's something which I have developed and it's available for the community. Secondly, I did work on a body of knowledge called Strategic Analysis Body of Knowledge. I wished IIB would have adopted it, but they refused. I'm still discussing with them how to kind of get that body of knowledge out in the market. It was co-authored by about 100 plus BAs around the world. So it's a very significant effort that I paid. The third thing, at this point in my work career, I'm more focused on my company brand than my brand because I don't want the company to suffer if I'm not there. And I'm definitely going to kind of go away from the scene in another 3 to 5 years' time. And by that time, I'm hoping that the company has built its brand reasonably well. We have a second line of leadership built, and I'm very glad we have one of our consultants being the secretary for IIBA India chapter. She is fairly well known in the market for that role. And I'm glad that there is somebody in the organization who can take over the role that I am doing right now in about 3 to 5 years' time. So that's the time span I have kept for myself. And after that, of course, I may continue to do a different kind of work, maybe more into social sector, rather than being in a commercial sector. So that's where my focus will go, build the company brand, not my personal brand.
Excellent, thank you, Ellen. I should have noted as well. I won't be personally going around and checking on you over the next few years, but it's just nice to know. And Rusha.
I think we've pretty much covered, basically just to quickly touch base on everything that I mentioned before, including walking the talk, not just talking the talk on having my own vision, like a PDP, validating where I am with respect to the journey. But most importantly, also something Kathleen touched upon is finding mentors in this area is very, very important. I think while you mentor people, you're always on a journey, a learning journey. So finding people who you can look up to is also very important. A pro tip that I had learned in one of the workshops that I'd attended is how many people do you follow in the area you want to succeed in, which made me reflect that at least follow 5 people intentionally. Go and look out for those people in the area that you want to grow ahead in, be it leadership or strategic thinking or whatever it is. So that's one thing for me, like be on the lookout of such people. And the second is giving back to the community. I think I'm at a stage now where I've learned, I am on the journey, I will keep learning, but it is also up to me and people around me to give back to the new set of BAs or to be BAs even if they want to venture into this field. So that would be what I would want to do personally. And I would love if you want to check that, create some accountability.
Excellent. And I think, I mean, it sort of resonates quite nicely with me actually in that sense. I think one of the things that I'm going to personally continue to do is really around, you know, having more BA Insight sessions, talking to more people, hopefully sharing it with more people, and therefore, you know, not just it's about picking up content from watching these videos, but hopefully, you know, the network that amongst the 4 of us will grow, and that you know, we introduce each other to different people that we haven't met before, learn stuff, and actually you know, can go out to people we've met through the insight sessions and discuss things as well. And I'm sure that you know, well, I'd like to think anyway that many of the people that I come to meet and share about, if they're not already quite prominent, that their prominence will grow anyway, as I'm sure it will. Now, I'm conscious we've only got a few more minutes left to go. We could probably talk, we've probably got another 10 questions we could actually go through on BA brand, but we might park that for another day. But it's probably best just for a minute or so each, just go around to see if there's any further points that any of you might wish to raise on the topic of building your BA brand. So, Rusha, can I start with you on that one, please?
I would say stick to the basics. As a BA, think of if there's a problem in front of you, why you're doing what you're doing, who are you doing it for, and then how does it help them, and how does it help the organization. So start with the basics. Don't look at radical changes. Instead of being revolutionary, be evolutionary. Basics, and then bit by bit. So it said, like, how do you eat an elephant is one bite at a time. Start with this and then move on to the areas you would want to venture into. It could be product, it could be project management, it could be leadership or whatever. But basics and then incremental would be my key message.
Excellent, thank you. And Kathleen?
To echo Rusha, stick to the basics and then just ignore that imposter syndrome that, I mean, it will come up. You'll have days where you question what you're doing and are you a right fit, and focus back on the basics and why you got here and what drives you to keep going, because you're doing what you're supposed to and there's opportunities to grow. So just put that negativity out of your mind and just keep going.
Excellent advice. Ellen, to you.
Again, I will come back to the 2 wheels that we run on, expertise and exposure. So both have to be taken care of. Continue to build your expertise. And for me, one of the very simple technique that I use to build my expertise on new topics is to do 1 certification a year. So that forces me to learn something uncomfortable for me, because if I have to pass an exam, I have to study well, otherwise I will not pass. So that keeps my expertise path a little bit on track. And exposure is again something that I personally try to do. This year onwards, I've been deciding to join at least some in-person conferences as well. So I was talking to a company called Herd Consulting in UK, Deborah Paul, and then I was asking her if she can plan an event little before BBC next year. We join there and we go to BBC. So that way we have an opportunity in UK to spend some time, and then we go to US or Canada. So we kind of club the events in such a way that people can plan their travel reasonably well. So that was a request from me to her. Let's see how it goes. But I think we need to keep focusing on expertise and exposure, both simultaneous.
Agreed. And the only points I might add to all those things really is really just to, an advice to, I guess, others that are thinking about going in and becoming, building their reputation and their brand, is to focus on the quality, focus on the valuable outcomes, and actually just focus on the community as well, and learn from others, I think, as you do that. So I guess I'll leave that point there. It's nicely to talk about community when we've got three members, not including myself, from the community with me. So that's excellent. So I guess the only thing that is left to say is to thank you for all your insight and your expertise and your point of view on an interesting topic for sure. I'll definitely look out for hope to speak to you all very soon. Look out for various initiatives and a means for you to share your brand more widely, as I'm sure there will be. So thank you very much, everybody, for attending, and I look forward
Thank
to
you,
next one.
John. Yeah, thank you
Thank
all
you.
panelists. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Really
everyone.
enjoyed the discussion. Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.